A real debate is taking place in this country now, at least I hope it is, about gun-free zones. Lone gunmen, they have a fondness, you could say, for people and where victims won't shoot back, and that is gun-free zones. And talking about that today in a terrific USA Today op-ed piece is my next guest. He's William Jacobson, professor at Cornell Law School. Legal Insurrection is his website, I believe, and he's joining us on our Newsmaker line right now. Professor, how are you, and welcome back to the show.
Good. Thanks for having me on.
What do you think of this debate over gun-free zones? First of all, let me ask you, how did this idea ever get started?
I don't know where it started, but I think it's one of those progressive or liberal sort of intentions that presumes that if you tell people not to do something and you tell bad people not to do something, they're not going to do it. And so what they've done is they've created this perverse situation where they leave the good people, the people who will actually obey the sign that says gun-free zone or whatever it happens to say, or the rule or the regulation, at the complete mercy of the people, the criminals or the insane, who couldn't care less about those rules. So they've created this situation, but I don't know where it first got started, but it's one of those things that it sounds good, it sounds pleasant. If we just say that we're going to keep the children safe by declaring a school a gun-free zone, it ignores the reality that the person who wants to cause mayhem and kill people is going to ignore that. So it's just one of those very strange sort of things.
Yeah, you write today in your article, as a matter of fact, you write, gun-free zones presume the good intentions of those entering the zone. I don't know of a killer who has any good intentions. Do you?
No, and that's the whole point. That rather than if you really want to protect children and college students and people in movie theaters, then you would not simply rely on a sign that will be ignored by the very people who will do harm. You would allow people to carry guns in the movie theater as long as they're legal to do so. But the point is to force people who obey the law to abandon their lawfully possessed guns leaves them completely at the mercy of the people who disregard that. So it makes absolutely no sense. It sounds good. It sounds like you're doing something good, but in reality, you're making the situation worse. So if you really want to protect people, do away with those gun-free zones.
Don't gun-free zones, Professor, give the shooter, in this case, like the case up in Oregon this past week, ultimate control of some, and they may not have any control of anything in their life, but in this situation, when you walk into a room or a school or a building or a movie theater where you know nobody has guns except for you, doesn't that give you ultimate control?
That's right, and I don't know psychologically whether that is a factor why they're drawn to that, or the control factor, or whether they're simply drawn to it because they know they won't be opposed. Whatever it is, but it's a very bad and very dangerous situation, and nobody who is in favor of those gun-free zones can claim they actually want to protect people, because what they're doing is achieving the exact opposite result. There's got to be nothing more horrifying for somebody to know that they're in a building or on a campus where the only person with the gun is the person shooting your classmates. That it has to be among the worst feelings that you can experience, that sense of helplessness. And that's the situation they have created, where oftentimes even the guards, the security guards, are not allowed to carry guns. And so they have completely disarmed the good people, the people who have no bad intentions, and they have given ultimate power to the people who have the bad intentions.
Could there be a strong legal case, in your opinion, Professor, against gun-free zones?
I don't know. It's not something that I've really considered. I don't think so. I think that's going to be a situation, depends on the state law. I think legislatures have to get involved in that, and they have to enable these or outlaw these gun-free zones. So I think that it's something that the legislature has to address. I don't know whether there's any common law liability for a building owner who maintains it as a gun-free premises, although if those were banned, then there might be liability for them.
But a private property owner, like the owner of a movie theater, if it's his property, he could, in fact, declare a gun-free zone, and nobody would have a right to challenge that, would he?
Well, that's right. Unless the legislature were to determine that, other than certain types of facilities, prison or something like that, that you could not do that even on private property. But you're right. Private property is very different than public property, and it may be that if it's your own home or your own private building, you've got the absolute right to do what you want, and that's certainly a property right issue.
Professor, have you ever heard of an area, a building, a school or something where they had initially declared a gun-free zone but realized they weren't working and changed their mind, and it's no longer a gun-free zone? I've never heard of a place.
I haven't heard of that, but I haven't searched for it either. It may have happened, but certainly I think the trend is to create more and more gun-free zones, no matter where they happen to be.
Mm-hmm. Final question for you. If you were to advise people who are against gun-free zones, what's the best argument they can make against them, in your opinion?
That put yourself in that situation. If you are lawfully able to carry a gun and you are in a place where you've been essentially barred from doing that, you have left yourself exposed. You've left yourself exposed to the worst criminal elements, and therefore you're not protecting yourself, you're not protecting anybody else by creating these gun-free zones. You're actually making the problem worse.
All right. Professor Jacobson, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you.
Great. Take care.
All right. Joining us on our Newsmaker line, that is Professor William Jacobson at Cornell Law School. Also has a website called Legal Insurrection, talking about time to put an end to gun-free zones. All right. More coming up on the Rod Arquette Show and Talk Radio 105.7 FM, 570 AM.